Conan, Botma, thank you so much for speaking with us today. I believe you are situated in South Africa.
Yeah, Somerset West, the Heritage Park. It's like a nice holiday area, I guess. People like it.
So if people come down to the Cape for holiday, they can pop in there for some counselling at your office.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, whenever people come here, I'm always available.
Okay. Conan, do you only counsel in person? Do you counsel online?
Well, at the moment, I only have online counseling because I don't have the office space right now for in-person stuff.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
So you're going to be talking to us about a very interesting, a very needed, a very problematic topic, and that is the topic of addiction.
Yeah, so addiction for me, I guess, living in this country, they say Cape Town is like one of the drug meccas in the whole world. I think it's the top place. So I grew up in, I guess, through public schools and stuff like that. And that has been a big, I guess, issue and stuff in my area growing up. Parents with substances, friends, things like that. And for me as well, I smoked for like 9 years, cigarettes, trying to give up cigarettes, and it's hard, like there's relapse, right? You like want to give up and then you start smoking again and you want to give up. And eventually, I haven't been smoking now for like 8 years. So
wow,
it's a very interesting and passionate topic for me, I guess. So that's why I like working with it.
So is it only the smoking that causes you to be very interested and committed to the topic or the counselling of addiction, or do you have other reasons?
Yeah, it's just personal because I've had friends, I've lost family members to addiction, some friends as well. So just throughout my life, seeing it and seeing, it's very stigmatized. People can feel isolated that are addicts and stuff like that in all various forms of addictions, right? But so for me, it's like I feel like it's a very serious topic to address, and that's why I wanted to address it personally and take on the fight, I guess.
Yeah. So would you say that parents who and parents of children or individuals who struggle with addiction can reach out to you, and do you reckon it can? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? I think that's what I want to ask.
Yeah. So for some people, say parents, right, and they have children that are addicts and stuff like that, it could be difficult for everybody involved, right? Because an addict, I would say, is someone that, that using, say, a drug in this instance, right? It could be whatever it is, but to say a drug, it changes your brain, right? Like physically over time. So you get the dependence and it makes like neurological changes that make it almost impossible to not do the substance. So a person will almost do anything, whether steal from a family member or whatever, and can do a lot of damage to relationships and stuff. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. It is difficult. There's going to be a lot of relapse most likely, which is part of the process of recovery. But kind of restructuring the habits slowly to find habits and strengths per individual that works for them. And then over time, establishing new habits, like that could be also through boundaries and things like that, right? In terms of enablers and stuff, setting up boundaries the enabler thing. Yeah. So over time, people can establish new behaviors that kind of changes the brain chemistry, and then those behaviors become permanent. And that would, I guess, be the light at the end of the tunnel for a recovered person. Yeah.
It's hard, and it's a long road to rewire your brain. Rewire your. What would you say if I came to you and I couldn't afford, because this is why people use independent counselors. They cannot afford to book into a rehab or whatever the reason is, and then they opt for home, what shall we call it?
Like remedies or something. maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Home rehab. And it's hard because when you go into a rehab, can you talk us through home rehab versus rehab, center rehab?
Okay. So with a center rehab, you're going to get a lot of clinical people, obviously, that work with diagnoses and stuff like that. It's very like formal, and they have like a whole routine that they follow, and hopefully that rehabilitates you, right? Which is fine. And my approach is more just like holistic. So I'm looking at the individual itself, getting to personally kind of know the individual, right? And because it's a rehab is kind of like a week or whatever, and then you're done. Like with the individual counseling type thing, as we're talking about, we can go kind of as long as needed, right? So I can get to like know the person and see what their strengths are and guide them to kind of find the changes together to make it work long term. So it's more of like I guess even a longer process, whereas rehab could be expensive, fast, and after rehab, often not always, they kind of just leave you on your own. Where sometimes there's follow up, right, but not always. So people relapse and then they don't know what to do, and then it's
You're quite right. You're quite right. So the rehabs that I'm familiar with would book you in for about 3 weeks. That's your 21 days. So they go on to the 28 days. Sandra Bullock, 28 days, because 21 days rewires your mind or makes a new train of thought.
Okay.
And then for a little extra, just to make sure. But chances, and I agree with you, chances are of relapsing 100%.
Yeah, because a rehab, a rehab is your environment's different, right? So you're not by your house, say, for example. Now you can learn to kind of get over the addiction at rehab because it's a controlled environment, right? But what happens when you leave the rehab and you go back to your old environment, where you learn there's various reasons why you got addicted in your old environment, right? The friends, maybe, enablers, or parents, or just the money situation, who knows, right? So it's like, what happens when you feel great and you've recovered in rehab and now you just go back to that environment? Well, you've learned to cope by using an addiction of some kind. So why wouldn't you just exactly do that again?
Exactly.
Most likely you won't. Yeah. So I think for me, for me, it's just about trying to make the change in your environment, right? What things can we do to kind of change that behavior in your current environment, not a rehab situation, but your current one? And those are going to probably be more long lasting. I guess that's the way I look at it.
And also then, if we can talk a little bit about the enabling, because I think that many times the wife sits with a husband who is
maybe a gambler or something.
There we go. So it's not just the hard stuff. We're going to talk about other things that people get addicted to as well. But okay, let's for the moment just say, okay, it's crack or whatever. Okay. The wife sits with the husband who is consuming, and what can she do? What can she not do? What must she stop doing? Because she is primarily the enabler. And whether the parents want to hear it or not, they are funding the habit. So if you could maybe talk us through what the enablers, and the enablers aren't bad guys, but they are terrible guys in that they have it within their power to stop it.
Yeah, so if you're talking about a wife situation, so let's just talk about food, for example, right? Because I've watched like the 600 thing, Pound Life, whatever, right? So if you're married to someone and you love this person, right, and they haven't always been addicted, let's just say, okay? Now, the wife is trying to help the situation or make the person feel better, and that happens to be through food in this example, right? So she just gives the food to make the person happy, and then she can avoid an argument or something like this. And it's kind of just kicking the ball down the road, because the addict, who maybe loses control, right, because they have those pathways in their brain, is going to manipulate the situation to get their drug no matter what. And the more addicted you get, say you're gaining weight, right? Now you can do less and less and less, and you require that person to do more and more and more. And eventually it becomes, you almost disintegrate the relationship, and the relationship becomes about the addict or the substance or the food or whatever, right? And that's the new reality. So what they can do is, what I would say, if there is enablers, to arrange like a group session or something to talk about setting boundaries, I think is very important. Get everybody on the same page, right? Like even the addict, by the way, because the addict wants to change. That's why they came to counseling, right? So if the addict's like, I want to change, it's like, okay, let's get the enabler, in this case, the wife, in the picture. Let's set boundaries right here. Let's negotiate boundaries right here in this space. Then no matter what, if the addict is trying to manipulate you later for food, for example, you've already set those boundaries so you can feel confident in saying, no, I know what you want. This is what you said you want. I'm taking a step back. I think that's the best way to with enablers.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think if the whole family does not come on board, it's going to fail.
Definitely.
Because like you say, we cannot, money is a big thing. I've spoken to many addicts who say that they, or addicts in recovery, and they've been recovered for 20 years, but they still call themselves addicts. They say that apparently a certain kind of whistle, when they're driving, they know that's a call, a whistle, or that's a hand. Whistle?
Like a trigger, basically.
Yeah, and they say that they have to drive different routes.
Yeah, so like, you know, if you in a certain environment when you say doing drugs, right? Now, if you're not an addict anymore, say for 10 years, but you see that environment, it can immediately trigger you to go straight back to those like brain wirings, I guess. It's like the same with like, I guess, trauma and stuff. When you see a certain person or you're in a certain area, all those emotions and stuff come back, right? Those triggers. And, you know, for addicts, there's like biological factors as well, right? So some people are just more prone to being addicts than others. So if you find yourself being an addict one day, like not one day, but you're an addict, right? Even if you recover, you still have a disposition. Your brain is still wired in a way that makes you more prone to addiction compared to someone that maybe can, I don't know, go drinking, say on the weekend and be fine and not find themselves in that loop of addiction.
You know, that's very interesting that you mention that, because my son has he likes, what is it, Buffelspoort or Buffels, or it's a certain kind of a brandy. And so I am a teetotaler. Well, a coffee totaler, actually. But I cannot drink at all. If I take any alcohol, I sleep. You know? So the other night he said, "No, Mom, just have a little one with me," and but he made it very small. Hey, I was chilled. I didn't sleep, but I was chilled. But that's just, I suppose, whether you have, they call it the addictive personality or not.
Yeah, I think in alcohol's a depressant. So there's the alcohol blood-brain barrier. So what alcohol does is it actually goes into your brain and starts shutting your brain down, and that's why people like it. Literally physically shuts your brain down. So your like cortex shuts down, and then you can't think, and then your motor cortex, and that's when you like, you know, can't stand and stuff. So it's basically shutting your brain down. So maybe you're very sensitive to that process, and that's why you just sleep immediately, you know. Whereas a stimulant will wake you up, you know. It's the opposite of alcohol.
Exactly. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's very important as to the motive why one would take any kind of drug, be it food, alcohol, hardcore drugs, your choice of addiction. Why? Because you mentioned now the brain shuts down.
Right. I think, you know, I see, I guess, drug addicts or people, addicts in large, as like victims, because it's all like self-soothing things, right? It's like, say let's just talk about like a super healthy family, right? You get taught, and culture, I guess. Let's just say throw that in, because if you live in a culture that people are just doing drugs everywhere, you're going to learn to do that as well, right? That's just normal. So if you come from
That's
a,
not
say, super,
necessarily,
yeah,
sorry, that's not
yeah,
necessarily genetics. That is a learned behavior,
yeah,
like you say.
yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
does it.
So it's like 50% genetics, 50% environment, basically. But let's say you come from a super healthy family, they will teach you, hopefully, good coping mechanisms for certain things that happen in life, right? So say you fail a test or something, they'll be like, oh, it's okay, you can get it next time, build that confidence. But if you don't have that, right, and you feel you suffer a lot, but you don't know how to cope and do with it, and you see like other adults drinking or something, for example, and then you drink, it starts shutting down your brain, you feel better, right? So it's just learned behaviors to make yourself feel better. At the end of the day, people are doing drugs to feel better, to deal with problems, internal problems that they have, that they're replacing with food, or even internet addiction, drugs, or whatever it may be. Escapism, really. Yeah.
Escapism, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's also, drugs can be a mood altering substance or
Yeah.
mood
Yeah.
altering activity.
Some people use it for like also like steroids for the gym, or to, as a mood altering, make you perform better at work. The ADHD medications to get you better marks, make you perform better. So there's that world as well. Some people think they need to, I guess, get an edge to compete in some area. They may land up being addicted to drugs because they're using it as a crutch to kind of get ahead, so to speak. Yeah.
So your purpose as a counselor is to make that person understand that they do not need a crutch. Or what approach do you take when somebody comes?
So basically, just to answer your question, it's more just like find their strength so that they don't need the crutch, right? It's like exactly. So someone just maybe didn't grow up in a way that they learned the behaviors of what to do in the situations, or for some reason maybe they're insecure, they don't think they can do it. It's like, let's find out how you can do it, or let's fall into your strengths, I guess, to find ways that you can actually do the things that you think you can't do. So my approach is, yeah.
Is it the
Sorry,
same
yes?
for everybody? I'm sorry. Is it the same
No,
for
no, no,
everybody, or
no. Everyone's different. Everyone uses addiction for different reasons. I'd say it's largely self-soothing or to compete, as you said early on. But so every individual will come. They got a different personality and different background and different strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's find your strengths and lean into those. Let's find your weaknesses and kind of, get away from that side. Focus on your strengths. And then when you get that confidence, you see, oh wow, I actually can do this. Oh wow, and also understand your behavior, right? Why do you use the drugs, or why do you use the addiction? Let's have awareness about this, right? And once you fully understand the situation, be honest with yourself. For example, if you say, oh, I'm just going to go to a friend's house, but I'm not going to drink, rather say like, I'm going to go there and drink, because that way you can take accountability for your own actions. Don't be surprised by, oh, I somehow landed there and now I'm drunk, right? So it's like, let's be honest, let's say what we're going to do, and then try and make behavioral changes. If they don't work, make different changes, and then find like what works for you in the long term. There will be setbacks, probably. It's very likely. Some relapses. If there's a relapse, let's find something else we can do, change something, and then proceed, and then hopefully eventually, sustain change.
selling of your mother's whatever to buy drugs?
Yeah.
That is, or selling your housewares. I know of people who've sold their vehicle.
Yep. Vehicle, house, especially when like gambling as well, like house, vehicle, everything. Yeah. And I think those things can be used as a great motivation for change, right? Because negative experience and stuff is the motivation that we get. If you're feeling in a great mood, you're not essentially gonna be motivated to do something really challenging. But if you're feeling like, oh wow, I just sold my house, like I need to do something, that's gonna motivate you to maybe start changing something, right?
Unless,
never too late.
Unless the enabler comes and says, it's okay, you sold your house to drug, here's a new house, or here's a new car, because then then there wouldn't be a motivation to try.
Yeah, I think sometimes with enablers, they're trying to avoid the problem completely. They don't want to admit there is a problem. They want everything to seem fine. And doing that to them, they're just like, okay, this was a problem. It's solved. It's over. Let's just move on. But it's like, if this addict will never stop being an addict until they actually take the steps to change this. And this is always going to be a problem. It's not going to go away. So,
yeah.
Basically, address the problem. Don't just try and avoid it.
Avoid it. I agree with you. Yeah. And then very often rock bottom is the place that is needed, because anything other than rock bottom is not a good place to jump off from. You know, counseling won't work. All it'll do is it'll waste time. And I'm very much against wasting time. I want to help you and I want to get you into recovery. So if you're not at rock bottom yet, if you haven't slept on the pavement yet, you're not ready yet. Or am I wrong?
Yeah. I think you're right when it comes to substances. When it comes to like other types of addictions, it's a bit different. Like internet, for instance, you're not going to probably find yourself sleeping on the side of the road if you're addicted to the internet, right? Or like even porn or something, right? But substances, 100% people, because I think those drugs and stuff are very strong. So let's say there's like a random stat, any drug that you can take can be 2 to 10 times more powerful than, say, sex. Yes. So how does someone actually replace that?
Exactly.
Like you start disliking everything in real life, including sex and food and stuff, and because you're getting 10 times the value, let's say, from taking this drug than you would in real life. So you just, it can completely destroy you.
So the technology addiction, that is especially with the... I think last year I did a social study and I went onto TikTok at random times, but I did not go into the live streams. I simply went to see who is live, like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then again 5 o'clock in the morning, and then random. And many of these people I saw sat the whole day. It was day and night. No change of plans.
Yeah, I mean, even if I go to the gym, I just see that like some people just are on the phone permanently. They probably have like a permanent like arch in their neck or something, but like they just look down all the time. It's kind of sad. It's sad to see, man. I mean, in restaurants especially, I like look around me, and some people just don't. You see a family, everyone's on the phone. Like every single person, and it's like, man.
Every single person. So that's the addiction part. Now, what I've also noticed with the technology, like for instance, TikTok, that's the only thing that I really looked at, was that people go into these live streams and they talk, they tell their deepest secrets to the 5 or 30 or 1,000 people. Unbeknownst to them, you have what in Afrikaans I refer to it as the roofkijkers. That's me. I don't go into the live. So how many of my type is there? Because I don't want to get involved in that. You see?
So it's like you like window shopping. You don't like comment, but you like watch the stuff.
I watch the stuff, then I giggle to myself. But the problem here is when you are sharing intimate details of your life, of your relationship, of whatever, do these people not comprehend, or that there are there may be millions watching and listening?
I think it's hard to quantify those types of numbers from a screen, right? So you just like put the stuff on there, you get, people get addicted to the dopamine rush, essentially. So even if you're just a browser, right, seeing like, it's always like the extremes of society, right?
Yes.
On the internet. Normal people normally aren't like this. You see the most attractive people, the most ugly people. It's all like the war, and all the topics are blown up, right? So when you see that, your brain and the algorithm, Google algorithm, set up this way, right? Because they want you engaged.
Yes.
So you read, it gives you all the stuff you like. Your dopamine like rises, and then you get addicted. Now you come to tomorrow, then next day, and before you know it, you're just glued permanently. And getting likes and stuff. You post a picture of yourself. Someone says, "Hey, you look great," and a lot of those people, they're just being nice. It's like, it's not always like serious. They're just like being nice because they feel good. Like, oh, I say this person's nice, And then you read that comment and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm great. And then you send another photo the next day, or like, then you're like obsessed by watching. Am I getting enough likes? What about compared to yesterday? And you can just get caught in that loop of like, dopamine down, dopamine up, and then you're like trapped, I guess.
Chasing the high of the likes.
Chasing, yep. 100%, yeah.
Conan, what about sex addiction?
Yeah, so when it comes to sex addiction, a lot of people have been kind of, I would say, victims of sexual abuse more than anything. So if someone, has been like molested or something like that growing up, a lot of them, I think there's two ways you go, right? You either become sexually addicted yourself to try and take control and power back, right? So it's a thing of like you control the sexual interactions. So you become addicted to sex, and it's all encompassing in your mind. Or you kind of go the other route where it's more like asexual, where you're just disgusted by sex. You get this symptoms where, some woman, I forgot what it's called, where the vagina clamps up.
Rigidity.
Yeah, that. So that's the other route where it's almost like a trauma response, and people completely avoid it. So yeah, obviously sexual abuse growing up and stuff is horrible. And I think that's probably the highest likelihood of sexual addiction comes from that background, probably. Other than that, like if it's not from that background, I think it's just another form of addiction, right? So if you self-soothing for another reason, it could even be because you have insecurities, and having sex with someone makes you feel like validated and connected. You feel like you connect with someone through sex instead of just like, emotions and stuff through other ways. So definitely can be a form of addiction in that type of way as well. Instead of food or drugs, it's sex, right? So it's not always a case of sexual abuse past, but
yes,
there's a very high comorbidity there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the probability is slightly higher there. I hear what you're saying. Food.
Yeah, with food, I mean, food is all around us. We do need to eat, right? So it's a lot of people, especially these days, because we used to live in a feast-famine society. So our bodies are designed to feast-famine. So we would see, like, I don't know, a catch a hunt, right? And then we would eat as much as possible, and then we'd probably not get food for 3 days. So that's why intermittent fasting is like a new thing. It's very popular because it's really good for you. Like letting your body actually feel hungry does amazing things for you. It like clears out all these, bad things in your body and stuff. And that's why a lot of people fast these days. But to kind of simulate rather that feast fathom biology that we have, right? Now we live in a world that's just feast, because you can just order things online, right? And things like that. And the foods are not whole foods, right? No. What we designed to eat, it's highly processed and stuff like that. It tastes amazing because we designed in a way to eat the most high calorie dense foods possible. So foods that are deep fried and stuff like that and made artificially, they taste amazing because we designed to eat foods like that because it's high in calories, and we expect it to famine, right? Which we don't anymore. So you just eat those foods over and over and over, and those foods flood your brain with dopamine, and your rewards centers are just off the charts, right? And then you just get in a cycle where you just can't stop eating these types of foods, and then your body gets like slower and lethargic because massive insulin crash, right? Because these foods stimulate insulin, which is why people get diabetes, and then you just kind of eating food all the time, and now you're addicted, right? And then if you have problems, you just have McDonald's. Yeah, exactly. So food is a massive one, I think, for sure.
It is. I think that is probably the addiction I think technology and food are kind of
100%. Watching a good show with some pizza or something is a great thing, right?
Exactly.
I mean, everyone can relate to that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the sugar content in everything that you eat. They cook with sugar. So it's just the sweet. Even if you go on a sugar restricted diet, your bread and everything still has glucose. It breaks down to the glucose, the sugar content. So I think that's also a huge thing. But now we've spoken about, the one thing we haven't addressed yet, porn addiction, which is, I get, but it's not always, it's more the looking, watching porn.
Exactly. So porn addiction, a lot of people that are extremely addicted to porn are just looking at porn because it still stimulates all the same like responses in your head. You're not even doing it, you're just watching porn. Just gone. So like I heard a story once of a guy who was so addicted to porn that you'd watch porn while he's like doing something else, just like on the side, right? And so when it comes to porn, it's more just like, I think you're living a life that kind of makes you need porn. So it's like, I guess it's slightly different. It's like, how can you live a life that makes you not need the porn, right? Because you're using the porn obviously for some reasons, a connection or whatever. So it's like, let's build your life around how we can make it so that you don't feel like watching porn, I guess. If that makes sense.
Would you say that the watching of porn, I spoke to a guy who actually he's in your area.
Okay. Yeah.
He owned a number of strip clubs.
Okay.
I don't know how to put it politely, but in any case, so but he was also massively addicted to drugs, some hardcore drugs, and then obviously sex. He closed down all his brothel. That's the word I was searching for.
Okay.
He closed down all his brothels and he opened a church, of all things.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting. But he did a study on how porn affects your brain, and apparently it is more addictive than cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, as human beings, right? Like our prerogatives are like sleep, eat, sex, pretty much. It's like one of the biggest core things. And also, again, just like with anything else, it's processed. So porn is often like, whatever you want, it can be the most degenerate things possible. Like real sex is not like that, right? So it's like real food is not the same as junk food, like McDonald's, the same as porn is not the same as real sex. So you're kind of getting 5x the stimulation, like watching porn, because it's not really real. You can find exactly what niche you want. You can find exactly what you're looking for, like the type of woman, man, whatever it may be.
Or
and
child.
it's like massively, or yes, in that case as well, probably can do that. And that like massively stimulates that network. And it's like, you also don't have to wait for when we both in the mood, and all this type of stuff. And real sex can be a bit messy and stuff like that. Porn is just like what I want, when I want, right now. And it's easily accessible and free for the most part, right? So you're just bombarding your brain with all this dopamine all the time. And the brain is like, doesn't always understand the difference between real reality, and like just what's happening, right? Simulation. So you're watching the porn and all your brain knows it's kind of real, right? You're experiencing it, you ejaculate maybe, that's the whole experience. It's a simulated real experience, and you still get the rush, and then obviously with time that tapers off, your brain gets adapted like it does to everything, tolerance, right? And then you need to watch more porn. And then at some point you just find comfort in watching porn because that's what makes your brain kind of relax and feel okay, right?
That's terrible. Look, do you think that watching porn, I don't know, I suppose there are degrees.
Yeah.
If you start off at light porn, do you evolve, or do you, you understand
it's like
my
this,
question? Do
like
you
the gateway
want
drug type of
harder
question.
porn?
Yeah, I think it's like the gateway drugs thing of like, oh, if you smoke weed, are you going to do crack? And the answer to that is it depends, like on the person. So if you got an addictive personality, maybe I can explain it like this. So let's say professional gamers, for example, let's just use this topic. So they did the brain scan on professional gamers who play 14 hours a day, right, professionally to be the best. And it turns out that they're not addicted to games because their perception of it is it's a job. Now let's go to the guy that's not professional that plays 8 hours a day, but he's maybe playing these games because he's trying to escape. It makes him feel good. He's getting the rage out, the rage trolling or whatever, typing keyboard warriors, and he's highly addicted. He can't. He wakes up. He needs to go and play and stuff because he's using that as a crutch or as a soothing mechanism for his life. He's escaping. So it's not the act of doing it; it's the perception while doing that that makes it addictive, right?
That's
so you can do so I can do this. I can drink alcohol and I'm not going to get addicted because I'm just doing it because I want to have a fun experience with my friend. But someone might go and drink alcohol because they're sad because they've lost their girlfriend or whatever. Now because the alcohol is taking that pain away, right, your brain's like, oh, this takes pain away. Now you're doing it to take pain away, not for just a random other experience, and then you become addicted, right? So it's like, it's more about why are you doing it, what are you doing, and
the motive,
how often, motive and frequency, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Very, very interesting. I've actually never thought of it in that way. But okay.
Yeah.
So it's just, to me, it struck me, like you've got these light bulb moments when you spoke about the gamer doing it as a profession. He's not addicted. Right. And the other guy who's doing it for fun, he gets addicted. For him, it's escapism. Yeah. I never thought about that. Oh, wow. You taught me something today.
Right. Nice. Like, I mean, even if you look at content creators, like, I don't know, PewDiePie, for example, or, big names, they create content all the time, but they're not browsing constantly either, right? It's a job. It's a job. Even though you'll see them everywhere. They're always on social media, but it's more just to put out their stuff. They're not like actually like,
they're selling
scrolling and stuff.
That's it. That's it. That's what my social experiment was about, was to see what's going on social media, what kind of people are drawn to it. And I came to the conclusion that, these people are not working, because if they're sitting on the live streams, we're not talking about these videos. Some have very beautiful dancing videos and painting videos and singing.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. But I'm specifically talking about the live streams where they have these boxes and people get into the boxes and they talk there. I think there is a real escapism going on there, and there is a measure of addiction. But what baffled me was that one would disclose so much of yourself to the couple of people that are in the live stream, but do you not think about the rest who are watching from the outside? So your secrets are not safe. It's like,
well, it's like an echo chamber kind of. It's like, maybe in this case, I'm just going to speculate, they maybe don't have people to, I guess, trauma dump onto. They don't have a good support network, right? So maybe they find their support on the internet, but there's not always good actors, as you pointing out, right? So maybe they go find an echo chamber in a niche where they talking there like, I feel so good talking about this because I don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend to share this with. I don't want to share it with them. Right? So I come here in my echo chamber of people that are like-minded to me, where I feel safe and comfortable to share this with. And, as you said, there's a lot of bad actors that maybe they're not thinking about, and that could inevitably come to bite them in some way or another in the future, definitely. So it's something they should consider. Right?
Yeah, it's not a safe place. I think my wondering was, are they not afraid that tomorrow the whole world will know their disclosure? Or
yep.
their trauma dump like
what you say on the internet is forever, even if you delete the video, right? So that's the truth for everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so, but I get that people need a support structure. So in the olden days, or in healthy modern days, you would find one or two people that you can trust.
100%.
That
agree.
You can phone up and say, look, you know what, I'm not in a good space. This is what's happening. But when you just talk about your things to random people,
then you don't have that safe space. Yeah.
You don't have
pretty much
safe space. And are people not actually considering that there is no safe space?
Yeah, I just think, when you get desperate, or you're not thinking about it too deeply, and you need that support, you sometimes willing to do things that you otherwise wouldn't if you had it, right? So it's about, maybe let's find you a safe space. Like, so for instance, if a client comes, you find out they have no support network, and they're busy, divulging all the information online, which can be a problem. Psychoeducation on how that can be a problem, or what they think, and see how it could be a problem, right? And if you guys agree to that, it's like, what can we do to try and get you like a safe space or some support? It's like, have you tried joining groups? Have you tried, what do you like? Do you like art? Like, there's an art group there. Why don't you just go there? If you socially uncomfortable, don't say anything. Just go and see if you like it. If you don't like it, don't go back. Something like that. Then odds are, normally, people meet people, then you get a friend, and the problem kind of resolves itself. In the best case, right?
There, I can see that social media is good. The finding the friend
can be good,
is making connections. There, I can see that it can be good, because I think the world has become a very small place now. You can be best friends living in Japan, and you can have a friend.
Yeah. I think the truth is that, social media is a tool, and it can be great. It is doing a lot of damage. Obviously, people are seeing that, like, en masse. But the thing is, all powerful tools can be horrible for you if you use them in the incorrect way. Any tool is like that. So it's not good to maybe just villainize one thing, where it can connect you with family, friends, get you exposure to new people and stuff, network and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's just like, if you fall into the trap of using it for that, I guess, what's the word to encompass everything, more of a degenerate type of way, which at times is fine, right? Like, if you want to have fun, like trolling a little bit or have fun, that's okay. But it's like, if you get stuck in that, and that becomes your whole existence, that's when it can affect your life in a negative way. Everyone from time to time wants to doom scroll, that's normal. But when you doom scroll every day, now, maybe ask yourself, is this the best thing to do day to day? Probably not. Is it fine to do once a week? Maybe. Then,
with any addiction, I suppose one should perhaps ask yourself, instead of eating, shooting up, smoking up. Do you say smoking up? I don't know.
Yeah, sure, it works.
What did I say? Scroll or whatever. Instead of practicing my addiction, like you say, what else is there that I can do?
So, like, addictions normally are like way more powerful than like normal means, and that's why people use them, right? They use addictions because they work, at least temporary.
Yes.
So
they bring relief. They don't work.
In the temporary setting. So it's like making a more sustained change, right? It might temporarily you might suffer a little bit more, and might temporarily not feel as good as, say, a drug would. But in the long run, your life, your relationships, and everything's going to be better, and that's going to make you feel more fulfilled as a person and have a better life. Your life and health and stuff's not going to fall apart over time.
Yeah.
So it's about the perception of, like, I can give up immediate 100% satisfaction because this drug's so powerful, for finding I can tolerate X amount of suffering, but my life's going to be infinitely better long term. It's like, how do you want your life to be? Like that, or just immediate gratification, immediate satisfaction at the expense of relationships, jobs, all these things, your own health, and then, dying early, getting cancer, all of these things. just be proactive about that and discuss what you really want in life and, do that, I guess.
Absolutely. There's a huge cost to pay. The price is very high, regardless of whatever your choice of self-soothing is.
Yes.
Even if I've worked with people whose marriages, the wife had become too big and the husband just couldn't, or vice versa. Well, the vice versa isn't really, the husband getting too big isn't really a problem, but the wife getting too big for the husband, that is a problem. So whatever it is, let's see if we can find an alternative, whether we can find a solution. And Conan here is very ready, able, and willing to help with your...
I'm very knowledgeable about the space, I guess, is the best way of saying. And I'm very passionate about the space, and, I'm keen to help as best I can, definitely.
Absolutely. And if I could just, so here's the thing, is reach out to Conan, reach out to me, reach out to the MST Mustard Seed Tree website, call us, I'll put you in touch with him, and let's get you free from whatever it is that is holding you hostage, because your addiction is actually holding you hostage.
Yeah, 100%. That sounds great. And I look forward to meeting, people from your side that come through you as well. And let's try and tackle this together. South Africa, especially has a lot of these addiction type problems, and I think it's very important to talk about and to tackle and try and resolve it for as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And and thanks for the platform.
It's only my pleasure. If I could ask you, why are you so passionate about addiction?
I think, honestly, it's about losing friends and family, probably more than anything, and having my own struggles. I've never been addicted to hardcore drugs, right? But cigarettes, a bit of alcohol at one point, when I was younger. But now I'm like completely addiction free, but just seeing so many people struggle and losing loved ones and things, and understanding that it's so stigmatized, right? People often, honestly probably don't like addicts, right? So I understand, I guess, addicts of all kinds. I've been there. I've had friends and family that have been there, and I just want to provide the platform to try and help and assist with that. That's the truth. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's
awesome.
That's awesome. It's always good when you've got like we study about many different conditions, but we do not necessarily have experience, personal experience.
Definitely.
Of issues. So,
and I also worked with an NGO for like almost a year. In these communities that have high substances and stuff, right? And I've seen families and stuff torn apart, or all the struggles, listened to all the struggles. I mean, these types of things can get you into risky situations, like where you can get raped and stuff as well. Very dangerous situations. And, I've seen almost all of it. And, that's just a very serious thing for me to try and tackle, and that I want to do, definitely.
And thank you very, very much. I'm going to get all your details, post that out, and anybody who feels the need to reach out to you, I do encourage you to reach out to Conan. Find the help today, because, your mental health matters, and nobody bothers with mental health until you lose someone. Until you find yourself addicted, until you find yourself in such a position where you think, I don't know what way out. And as I always say, that everything in this life starts with a thought. Before you get in the car, you think, I want to get in the car. Before you built your business, you thought, I want to build a business. And before you decide to commit suicide, you think about it.
Yeah.
So reach out Conan is available. Mustard seed tree is available. Reach out. We can help. You're important.
It's always good to be proactive, and it's never too late.
Absolutely. Like you said, be proactive. Don't leave it for too long.